We're going to call the zoning board meeting for the month of August 2024. And please bear with us because usually we sit upstairs in the city council chambers, so we're kind of roughing it down here in the basement tonight. So I would hope that both your side and our side will prevail tonight and we'll get through this. All right, the board that's sitting here tonight to hear the cases is member Steve Lianis, member Monique Screenberry, Fire Chief Brian Nardelli, member James Sweeney, and myself, member Kenneth Galligan, and I am the chair. Our zoning enforcement officer and building commissioner tonight and the clerk to the zoning board is Mr. James Bluff. Our recording secretary tonight is Monica Fragazzo. I would ask before we start the meeting, if you have a cell phone or electronic device, I would suggest that you either shut it off, put it on silence, just so it doesn't interrupt the meeting. If for any reason you need to talk on the phone, please take the conversation out on the other side of the rotunda down there. I will tell you again that this meeting tonight is being televised and it is being recorded. So just be aware that when that camera is around, it will be on this side, it will also be on that side, so you will be recorded. Prior to the start of tonight's hearing, there is an opportunity for anyone that's scheduled for a hearing tonight to withdraw. Do we have any withdrawals tonight? Seeing none, that's good. Currently, we have 8 cases scheduled for tonight's hearing. The way the meeting will be held is the petitioner that's going to present the case to the board will stand at the podium. The petitioner will present the case to the board. After the petitioner has finished the presentation, I will ask board members if they have any questions of the petitioner who has just given testimony to the board. If the board has no questions, or if we finish the questions of the board to the petitioner, I will then open it up for public discussion. This is the point at which anybody that's here that wants to speak in favor can speak in favor of the petition. If you want to speak, you would have to come up to the podium, hold the microphone so that we can hear you. When that is finished, I will then ask if there is anyone here that wants to speak in opposition. At that point, if you're opposed to any of the petitions, or the part of the petition that's before us tonight, you have the opportunity to speak on that. When that part is done, I'll ask if there's any elected officials in the room that want to speak on the issue. Following that, I will ask if there is anyone in the room that has any questions relative to the testimony that has been given. So if you have a question on anything, this would be the time to ask it. At that point, I will close the public portion of the hearing, and I will then open it up to deliberation among the board members. This is the part of the meeting when only the board members will be deliberating. We do it in public. You can watch how we're deliberating and what we say, but we will deliberate based upon what's in Chapter 27 and what was given tonight for testimony. You will probably hear one of the board members make a motion to grant. If that is seconded, I will have the clerk call the roll call. Each member then will vote either in the affirmative or in the negative. In order for a petition to pass, there are 5 members. If all 5 members vote in the affirmative, the petition will be granted. If the vote is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative, the petition will be granted. If the vote is 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative, it will not be granted. So basically, it requires 4 affirmative votes for a petition to pass. Once the roll call is taken, I will announce the result of the roll call, and I will let you know whether or not the petition has been granted or denied. There is an appeal process that goes with this after the minutes have been presented to the clerk's office. If anybody wants to appeal the decision of the board, there is a period of time, 20 days, when they can appeal the decision of the board. All right, did that cover everything? All right, the first petition that's before us tonight is petition 2437. It's a remand by a court order in the petition of Robert Nakajian, TRES, care of Rising Community and House Incorporated, 787 North Shore Road, Revere, Mass, seeking relief from Article 4, Section 2728, Article 3, and Section 2710 to allow apartments in a C1 zone located at 30 Intervale Street. For the edification of the board, this was before us several months ago. It was denied. It was appealed to the court, and the court has remanded the case back. The case that we are going to hear tonight is a different case than what was presented several months ago. So this is a brand new standalone case that we're going to hear tonight.
Sure.
All yours. Counsel.
Thank you. Attorney John McCluskey for Brockton and Rising Community and Housing Inc. We're here before you tonight. Actually, this is the fourth time that this property has been before this board. The first two times was for a conventional apartment building not owned by my client to be, I think the first one was 15 units and the second one was 20 some odd units, 1 and 2 bedrooms. And the board, I believe, unanimously granted those variances.
John, can I interrupt you for 1 second?
Yes.
We have one case tonight that has been postponed, and I should mention it right up front just in case there's anybody here tonight that wants to hear that case. I'm sorry, here we go. It's case 2438. It's 83 Upland Road, and seeking relief from 2749 for a special permit to allow for a deck to be enlarged and an accessible ramp built in an R2 zone located at 83 Upland Road. That case will not be heard tonight. So if you were here tonight, that case will not be heard. Thank you. Sorry about that, John.
Quite all right. Thank you. So I'm going to give you an initial overview of what we're looking for and then some history as to what's happened to this property and why we're here tonight before you and under what particular ordinance. So Rob Nakashian is in the business with his corporation, Rising Community and Housing, Inc. It's a Massachusetts nonprofit corporation in the business of providing housing for homeless people, educational services, and he has partnered with Father Bills in Mainspring regarding this property. You'll see in the application there's a letter of intent signed by, I think is John Yaswinski, I'm not sure, but principal of Father Bills. So this case, or this property, was before you over the past several years, now on the fourth time. The first two variances were granted, parking variances, use variances because it's in a C1 zone, and those two, for a variety of reasons, I guess never happened, probably financial and the ability to develop what they wanted to develop. We came before you in 2023 asking for relief under the Dover Amendment, and at that point we had 32 units and 20 parking spaces. Mr. Sweeney raised the question of, doesn't look like you have enough parking spaces if you're not going to use it for what you're telling us you're going to use it for. So it was denied. Rather than go to the courthouse and file an appeal, we said, listen, let's change this. Let's give them what they're asking for. So we shrank it down to 28 units and 28 parking spaces. Substantial change. Went to the planning board. Mr. Sweeney was on the board that evening. And under the guidance, or perhaps misguidance, of the planner, the board denied the return to the Board of Appeals, requiring us to prove hardship. Well, that's not what the cases are all about, and that's not what the law is all about. So it didn't take us too long to get into the land court, and we appealed the denial of the return to the Board of Appeals, not the initial denial of the board. And at our first meeting, after speaking with counsel for the city, we were in agreement that this should go back to the Board of Appeals. So we had a case management conference, which is basically a Zoom conference, and Judge, well, his name is, I'll get it. That's not important. And the judge basically went above and beyond our agreement to go back to the Board of Appeals and directly remanded this case to the Board of Appeals as if it was appealed by us the first time without going to the planning board. And by the way, the order of the court, which is attached to the petition, allows us to present new evidence, and that's what Mr. Chairman was talking about this evening. So what we have tonight before you is 28 units, and we're appealing under the ordinance section, Article 3, Section 2723, which states that this chapter shall not restrict the use of land for any church or other religious or educational purpose which is religious, sectarian, denominational, or public, except as specifically detailed herein. It says you got to have a minimum of 50 square feet of open space. We have that. A minimum of 1 off-street parking for every two individuals living at the property. So we've got 28 single-unit apartments, which means we really only need 14 spaces under Brockton's ordinance, Section 2723. We have before you, and I'll show you in a moment, we have actually 20 parking spaces. And then the third restriction is we must apply the dimensional requirements of Section R2 of the zoning ordinance. We meet those as well. So, this case is not a variance case. It's not a special permit case. It's really, quite frankly, a by right use under this ordinance. What we have here is this is the building with 28 units, single apartments, and some. I don't have the plans in front of me, but there are going to be 4 classrooms, place for people to come and help educate and reintegrate people into the community, help them get on their feet, and that's what 2723 is all about. Here is the parking. We've got 20 spaces. We only need 12. We only need 14. So we've got, if everybody drove, and historically this type of use, you get about 10% of the occupants drive. Some of them don't have licenses. Many of them are in no financial condition to buy a car, so they just don't drive. So we're gonna have more than ample spaces here. Just as an aside, to answer Mr. Sweeney's concern, we recently entered into a written agreement with the City of Brockton Building Department on the roadway project over on Belmont Street. They want to build, by right, under 2723, an additional 30 or 40 units, something like that. And we agree that as part of the occupancy permit, there would be no more than 1 person living in each of the units. And that's what we have here, 1 person in each of the units. 2723 says we only have to have 1 parking space for 2 people, every 2 people. So basically, we come before you this evening to say we meet all of the criteria under 2723. The plan shows that we meet the dimensional requirements of an R2 zone. We have more than ample parking. We have open space. You have to have 50 square feet of open space outside, which does not include parking space. I think you could actually use the roof, but we're not doing that as open space. And that's all. I think we meet the requirements entirely. In my discussions with counsel, Attorney Verdi, she said, well, you need to address the floodplain situation, which I'm assuming the board has previously addressed at least 2 other times because this has been approved for a variance before. This ordinance does not require the floodplain. And even under the Dover Amendment, if Brockton has such as in 2712, we have an ordinance that allows us to go a little easier than what the statute says, and the statute is in the Dover Amendment. So we've done that, and although we don't have to address the floodplain, Ed Jacobs is going to do that. Yes. Why don't I have him do that now, and then we'll go with questions.
as Attorney McCluskey stated, this whole site is in the flood zone, all the way up to Bellevue. All the way up to Bellevue Avenue. So Intervale Street and the whole site has been in the flood zone ever since the property was built. The addition that is being proposed on the back is going to be on columns. There'll be 4 columns going down. There'll be no foundation to impede the flood zone. And as you can see, there's a lot more grass area, and any area taken up by those columns in the flood zone is more than compensated by the grass and the drainage swale in the back.
Thank you. Might want to add that in the first 2 variances, those projects went before the Conservation Commission, which issued an order of conditions, which has fairly recently expired. Just it's taken us time to get this one back on the plate, and also went through site plan approval, I believe. So it's gone through a lot of the things that the city requires, and we're prepared to do that again. And obviously, there's stormwater discharge permit. Is that what you call it? Stormwater discharge? Well, I'm assuming you know that we need a stormwater permit after we get approved, which we'll do independently and separate from this process. Thank you. Any questions?
Done?
Okay.
Board members, any questions? All right, I have a comment. This is under the Dover Amendment. Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. Forget this all night.
Well, it's under 2723.
Yes, it is. And it's a Dover Amendment.
It goes a little beyond the Dover Amendment.
So in that section, it says, the way I understand it, the project that's before us needs to be in compliance with 27.9 R2 requirements.
Right.
Okay, we both agree on that.
Yes.
Okay.
You said that's in 2723.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. So I noticed on the plans, I think what I see is you're going to put a new addition on the back of this building.
Yes, I believe that's correct, yeah.
That's true. Correct. Okay. So the plans that you're showing here show that the rear yard setback is 23.7.
So that was it's actually built on the existing foundations that were there, correct? We take that down, that addition to that, is that extra?
You're going to have to use the microphone
Yeah,
every time you speak.
Yeah, that's correct. The addition, there's no existing building where this darker orange is. That's where the addition is going, correct. And we have a rear yard setback of 23.7 feet.
All right, so the orange that I see on your chart is the new addition that's going to be put on the back of this building.
The darker orange, correct.
Okay, so that new building comes within the setback of the back of the building. I know it's minimal, it's 23.7, and 27.9 R2 says that it needs to be 25 feet. So it would make sense that where we are dealing with what we're dealing with, that may be an appropriate relief area to allow to build into the setback, okay?
We'd look for your guidance in that.
All right, that's what I'm looking at, because
Yep.
I don't want this thing to come back and be going on back and forth.
Right.
I think tonight we have an opportunity to kind of straighten out some of these
Right.
things. The second concern I have is that I believe it's your intention to build this new structure on the same footprint as the current one.
Yes.
Do you know, or does Ed know, if the foundation for this building, I gotta get Ed's attention over here for a second. Do you know, Ed, if the current building that's there sits on a cement foundation or rubble stone foundation?
Pretty sure it's cement. Concrete, yeah, it's concrete.
So is the intent of the developer to put the new building on the current foundation?
Correct. Except for the addition on the back, correct.
Okay, the reason I'm asking that is if it's a rubble stone foundation and you take that foundation down, Now we've lost the grandfathering of the setback.
Correct.
So if you would be wise to ask for a variance for setback in that area. But if you're going to build on the current, I think that takes care of that.
Yes, correct.
So the concern that I have is, I think you should be asking for a variance for relief from rear yard setback, so that any bank that gets involved in loans or whatever, it's going to end up back here if we don't straighten this out tonight. So you're going to just have to address that.
That's a fair recommendation.
Yeah, correct.
Yes, and the other thing that we were very concerned about the last time around that really hasn't changed much on this is the entranceway that comes in off the parking lot. This board had a strong concern that you've got to do something to prohibit people from parking in front of that entrance for public safety, for people getting in and out. And I think at the time, we agreed that some type of bollards would be placed there so that nobody can park there. And quite frankly, if you stripe the parking lot, they're going to just park on top of the stripes.
Yeah, as you mentioned that night, delivery people or whatever would pull right in. So we have no problem putting a couple of bollards right in front of that striped handicap spot.
So it looks like what you've done in this plan is an upgrade and a better plan than what we saw before on this location. The only question I have, I think it would be wise for you as the petitioner to request a variance for relief from setback for that 1.5 foot in back, so we can get rid of that.
Then I'd like to do that formally as I speak, to
What's your hatchet?
request that.
Location and foundation?
The setback foundation.
That's the hatchet. That's the hatchet, location and foundation. All right, any other questions from board members? So the downsized from what we saw before, we got the bollards as we asked for before, and really anything else that's going to be addressed on this, I think it's going to be addressed on some other boards.
And I might say that, as we did in the Father Bill's case, we'd be happy to condition this permit on a condition in the occupancy permit that there's only one occupant per unit.
Okay, I'll do that, one occupant. There is no elevator in this building,
Not that I'm aware of.
just strictly 3 floors with no elevator.
Correct, yes. It's not required by code because the first floor is accessible, and then the other 2 floors are just as is. So, but all the units on the first floor are either group 1 or group 2.
Got it. Now, we have downsized from 32 to 28, so we're dealing tonight with 28.
Correct.
I just want to bring to your attention that the letter that we got from Father Bill's Mainspring, they referenced 32 residential efficiency apartments in this letter.
That's what we started with.
Correct.
With the 32. And
I wanna
I
make-
also represent Father Bill's place, and I've had direct communications with John Yuswinski that they are still full into this program, this project, as approved.
Okay, so I just want to have an understanding tonight that even though the letter he sent
Right.
references 32, we're talking 28.
Yes.
Okay, good.
That's the letter from 2023.
It is. Board members, any questions? Everybody's good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here in the audience tonight that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That will conclude the public hearing. I will now open it up for deliberation among board members. Board members?
I think we made it clear we're not concerned about it last time. I think they obviously don't get that big of a picture. Wanted to work with us.
Okay, so what I got for notes here that we will be taking a vote on is granting a variance for relief from rear yard setback from 25 feet to 23.7 feet, which will clean up any discrepancy there. Also, we are mandating that bollards be placed in front of the main entrance so nobody can park and block the entrance. And as the petitioner stated, we will state that there shall be only one occupant per unit. for a total of 28. That's what we'll be voting on.
Motion be read. Second.
All right, the motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lannis? No. Chief Nadelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
The vote is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you.
Two ballots? Two ballots?
You know what we got to do, just so we
Thank you.
Jim, is there a way we can call the pass the mic down the road? The mic's coming in.
Not everybody has a mic.
No.
I can pass mine too.
But
Yeah,
just
all right.
kind of fumbling with it. You can just drop the mic down. That's about it.
Why don't you and I share one?
They're still going to need to pass it.
I think he's only got 4.
Yeah, that would be two sharing these.
No, I can change up the order. I can change the order. So I'll start with you, Steve, then we'll move our way down.
All right, the next petition, 2438, was 83 Upland Road, which has been rescheduled. Next petition is 2439, the petition of Pamela Martin, 168 Fairmont Street, Dorchester, Mass., seeking relief from Section 27(9) for a variance to rebuild a single-family dwelling in an R1C zone located at Plot 27 Howland Street. That is to the right of 62 Howland Street. Before you get started, I looked at this location and it is a vacant lot. Is rebuild a scrivener's error here?
It was. The application originally says to build, and the publication somehow, the notice said rebuild.
Okay, so it's build.
It's build.
I keep forgetting to pick this up. Okay, please introduce yourself and tell us your story.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members. Attorney Brent Warren, on behalf of the petitioner, Pamela Martin, the trustee of the trust that owns this property. I'm pinch hitting tonight for attorney Matthew Ezepek from my firm, who actually filed this but was unable to make it tonight. With me, I have Philip Martin, who is a beneficial owner of that property and a contractor and builder. And I also have Antoni Shersnovich. All right, I tried to get that. It's a lot of consonants in there. But we're here tonight seeking a variance to build a single-family home in this zone. The lot is not without its challenges. It's one of the old lots in Brockton. It was designed back in 1913 when they laid out this neighborhood. A lot has changed, but a lot hasn't in that neighborhood. So we're seeking relief from the dimensional requirements in an R1C zone, specifically speaking to a side dimensional relief where we do not have 15 feet on one side of it with the proposed project. We have 10 feet. We meet the side setbacks on the rest of the property, meet the requirements for open area, and also seeking relief from the road frontage requirement on this and the lot size as well. And this is a A project that we think will be a very profitable one for the neighborhood. It'll put another nice house in the neighborhood, something that's going to be affordable, a first-time type of a home for people, especially in a time where we're really struggling to find that, especially in Brockton and surrounding areas. So we're hoping that the board will recognize this as a good project for the neighborhood and the city, and will grant our variance.
Okay, you're requesting a variance on a number of items here. Can you explain to the board what your hardship is relative to these shortcomings on?
Yes, the hardship would be the shape of the lot. When the neighborhood was originally designed, obviously, they weren't thinking of modern zoning as we do today. So the neighborhood was laid out as primarily 40-foot wide house lots that were fairly deep, but didn't have a lot of frontage. And as obviously as time has gone on, that has changed. The city has modified to get wider and wider, which most municipalities have. But in this case, our hardship with the shape of the lot is, in order to build a house on this lot that would be suitable for anybody to comfortably live in, as you can see from the drawings, it would be a house that would essentially run more front to back on the lot, and would have to be narrower in its scope, 20 feet wide, and I believe it's about 70 feet deep in the yard. But for the shape of this lot, this would match some of the others. And actually, if you looked at this neighborhood further down on the same side of the road, you can see there were several other houses that were built, I think around the 48 number, where you could tell that they were constrained by the same thing when they were built, and they're fairly close on lot lines. But we believe that this project and the way this has been designed is very much in keeping with the rest of the neighborhood. The setbacks, with the exception of even with the 10-foot on the one side instead of the full 15, if you go down the neighborhood, you'll see that most of the homes are fairly tight to the boundary lines, because they obviously weren't dealing with this at the time that they built them. So we believe that with the parking space available, with the setback of this house compared to the rest of them, that this home would blend in very nicely in the neighborhood.
Board members, any questions?
So I just have so what is the plan for that drop off right after the road? Is the fill going to be brought in to put in there to bring this lot up? Is there a drainage? Like, when you say there's issues with the lot, there's serious issues with the lot, where I'm afraid they may flood other houses. So what is the plan for this? If the hardship is the lot shape and size, what is the plan to remedy what it is right now? 'Cause it's
Probably a good
not
time to ask the
suitable one
engineer.
bit.
If you could answer just sort of the topographical location and how that lot dips.
So, precise topographical survey has not been performed.
Could you
But-
bring that microphone just that way so you can speak in? Just turn it, so turn the microphone towards you.
Okay,
There you go, much better.
so, thanks. So, the ground is sloping from the back toward the front. So that general slope. However, I cannot answer how much difference in elevation is between back and front. So that's the general description of the topography of this lot. So
Okay, to that point though, where the road steps off into the lot, there is a considerable drop. Meaning, any storm drains right in that immediate area, where is the water going to go? I guess the hardship for this lot is a hardship. Like I have a very hard time understanding how this lot is going to work unless they do a ton of work to the.
So you asking about drainage?
Well, I'm asking about all of it because like I said, you're stating that the hardship is the shape and the topography of the lot, and I couldn't agree with you more. I think the problem with it is, though, it puts it in a very difficult position for the neighbors around there. I drove down the street, and to Mr. Warren's point, there are some very close proximity houses, and I can understand that for the neighborhood. The lot topography is the bigger concern here, because I don't know that house directly, if I'm looking at that, the house directly to the left, I almost feel like they're gonna have to do work on their land just so you can do work on your land, is what I'm getting at. It's not,
So, do you have any pictures of this property? Yes. Maybe, you know.
I have the picture.
You
I have the
picture?
pictures, yeah, and I drove by it multiple
Can I-
times, so
can
that's
I-
the concern.
Can I take a look at this picture, please?
Yeah, you can, but the picture doesn't do it justice when you drive by it.
I remember when I was doing the survey. So from the picture, it looks like it confirms what I said. The ground is sloping from the back to the front, means toward the street. You can see yourself.
I'm seeing the exact opposite in that. This picture does not do it justice when you go by there. You see a major, significant slope down. I see what you're saying in the back where the trees are, but I'm talking about road runoff and things of that nature without some serious site work and potentially site work on the houses that you're going to have to deal with next to it. There's a serious concern. So that's why I'm asking, what is the plan to get this lot prepared? Because like I said, your hardship is a severe hardship, is what we're getting at.
So
I think we can speak to that with Mr. Martin, because it is something that he is aware of. Step forward.
Yes, my name is Philip Martin. Yes, I'm aware of the slope, the house being down, and our intention was to bring it up, and then put retention pans for holding waters. Probably use like Caltech systems to do a calculation for the volume of runoff and capture that on the land, since the land is so deep.
Board members, any other questions? While you're deliberating down there, I have the same question, that when I went over and looked at the lot, it drops pretty drastically from the street down. There is a house that sits to the left side of this that is only 5 feet from the property line. If this lot that you are contemplating putting a house on is brought up to grade to the point where it will shed water to the street, I am very concerned that that water is going to flow southerly and you're going to flood out the house next door, because their house sits down in the gully that is currently your lot. So if you bring your lot up, this water is going to go right into the house next door.
But in fact, if we're going to set the house so back, the length is like 100 feet, so we're setting it back. Most of those houses are mostly to the front of their property, and now it's going to be set back behind that. So we could make a range.
Well, the plan doesn't show that. This shows your proposed house to be 30 feet from the street.
Yeah, I know the plan doesn't show that, but I mean, I think when they were doing the drawings, it's just to pretty much lay out what size houses they would put in, but it doesn't show where it's going to be located actually on the lot for the second.
Well, we have to go by what's on here.
I understand that. We'll just do modification.
And I believe if you can actually see this plan, there's one drawing here that I believe you have that shows the existing house next door. And it looks like the front of that house is about 11 feet off the street.
Right, correct.
So
A lot of that.
I think when you put that 20 extra feet or 19 feet or whatever it is from where this has to come back from the setback, just to be at the bare minimum of what you need off the road frontage, that's going to give them the room they need to grade this down and to do the capture of any of that stormwater runoff. You know, there's plenty of front yard for them to capture that and not flood out that house next door.
All right, one other question is, it appears so that you're looking to put a 4-bedroom home here? 4 bedrooms?
I think it was supposed to be 3. If it were 4, one would have to be like in the basement. But I know that's...
It shows 1 bedroom on floor number 1 and 3 bedrooms on floor number 2.
The architect was supposed to be here tonight and could not make it. We found out last minute, so.
And the other interesting thing that's not on the plan is any kind of way to get out of the side of the house, whether, it doesn't show whether it's going to be grade level or if there's a porch, a deck. If there was a porch that was put on the side of the door where you go outside, it's going to set at least another 4 feet into the 10-foot setback, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. And you are aware that according to 27.9, the minimum width of a lot in this city is 50 feet. So you're asking for relief from 50 feet to 45 feet.
Yes,
We
are.
understand that.
Yes.
Okay. All right, board members, any other questions? If not, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official in the room that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that has any question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? All right, please come down. Please identify yourself.
I'm Jethro Salami. I live at 67 Howland Street in Brockton, so I'm across the street.
67 Howland.
Yeah, so I'm right across the street from the property.
Okay.
So I guess my question is also on the setback in the parking lot, because there is no room in that lot whatsoever. Because at least you need at least 10 feet roughly for a parking space. I believe that's the case, right?
That's what they're showing is 10 feet between the house and the property line next door.
10 feet. So that'd be on which side? Because it'd be
Yeah, as you look at the lot from your house, would be to the left side, towards Center Street.
towards Center Street. Okay. So that'd be interfering with how far back is that lot, the part their parking's supposed to be in their whole entire lot? It's at least 20 feet, right?
They're showing on this plan a driveway that goes along the left side of the property, which would be up against, what number is that? Fold that over. Up against number 62, which would be the
Right up
house to
against
the
62.
left of the lot. That house is 5 feet from the property line, and then the proposed house is 10 feet from that property line. So those two houses would be about 15 feet apart, and it appears as though the drawing shows a car that is almost half the length of the lot, which would probably be 60 feet or so.
Okay.
You want to see the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, just turn it so you can see it. You're over here?
Yeah, we're right across from that. I guess that'll be there, but then we'll have to, like you were speaking about the drainage issue.
Can you just speak up, go over there to the microphone and just speak up loud to everybody? It's a public hearing, so
Okay.
everybody has to hear it.
Yeah, so I was, since it's far enough back, but you're also talking about the drainage issue, the water would come in our way and pretty much the other houses across the street. So I'm wondering how they're going to remedy that issue for us.
So, as I understand the question, the location of this lot is probably one of the lowest points in the street?
Yeah, it's the
So your question is, what are you going to do with the water if it gets out to the street?
Yeah, that and wherever else.
As I previously mentioned, we intend to capture all water runoff on site.
On-site, you're going to catch all the water?
Yes, on site and use catch basins. We propose using Caltex as Mr. Antonio has designed for me previously, which can hold, X amount of water. Depends on the calculations of the water runoff. Holds it and then slowly release it into the ground.
Okay,
Because
very
we have
good.
we have enough, we have enough area for that.
There's
on
enough
site.
area?
Yes, and plus we're already down low, so there's no way we're going to be running water will be running.
Please speak up to the microphone.
Yeah, we are already low, so there's no way water will be running, forward going into your property, which is at a high elevation.
So are you going to have to you're raising that lot to street level? Or is it going to be?
Not necessarily. What we're going to be raising a lot, but not necessarily for street level. The raising of the lot will be for us, so as to, to have enough to come out of the depth somewhat, so we're not being flooded in. But the water runs off will be captured, which, that's rules now. You have to capture all runoff water on site.
What would be the lowest point in the lot? Is how far up are you raising it? Is the other question.
Even if we raise it up to street level, but you're at an elevation, so even if we had raised it up to street level, there's no way that one house.
It won't just be my house, it'll be the other houses in the area.
But you understand, this house is probably going to be the smallest house on the lot. So there's
Right,
no
I just
way
wanna-
we could be dissipating so much water to flood other people. That's almost
Listen, I
impracticable.
just don't want to get in a back and forth conversation.
Sorry, yes.
If he has a question, we'll answer the question, but we can't have a dialogue going back and forth. So your concern is what's going to happen with all the water.
Yeah.
He has stated that he thinks he can handle all the water on site. So we will take that into consideration when we
Okay.
make our decision also.
All right. Yeah, because I was wondering about he said he's not raising it to street level, so what elevation is the back of the lot supposed to be at? That's the other question.
It's a valid question, and the plans do not show any topographical sites. Nothing on here to tell us what that's going to be. So.
Okay.
All right, you good? All right, is there anyone else that has a question relative to the testimony that's been given? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That will conclude the public discussion. I will now open it up for deliberations among the board members. Board members.
I just think, this isn't a small house. A small house is a Campanelli Ranch, which is under 1,000 square feet. On these plans is about 1,974 square feet. So for all intents and purposes, it's a medium to large size house. I have concerns with what's not answered in the water. That's one. With such a large house, you're going to need a lot of parking. Every issue we have with a new house comes to play on this, and it's an undersized lot, so that's how I feel.
I have a concern with the width of the lot. As we know, the minimum size lot is 50 feet. This one is very narrow at 45 feet. When I went over and looked at the lot is quite a bit lower than the street. He's told us he's going to fill the lot in, he's going to grade it to the street and control the water on site. I don't possibly see how the water cannot get onto the adjacent property, which is directly south of this. And quite frankly, the difference in elevation between the house that's there now and what he's proposing could be at least minimum 3 or 4 feet. And I'm just very concerned that the house that's there now is going to get flooded out because we're going to change the direction of the flow of water in that whole lot over there. So my concern is the width of the lot. It is below minimum. And secondly, I am very concerned with what's going to happen with the lot. If my memory serves me right, there is a depression in Howland Street, and this is at one of the lowest areas of Howland Street, so the water will flow towards this location rather than away from it.
Motion to grant.
All right, a motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Ms. Delanus?
No.
Ms. Greenberry?
No.
Chief Nardelli?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Chair Galligan?
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
The vote is none in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied. The next petition is 24-40, the petition of Andreas Cariolis and Laurie Cariolis, 28 Roberta Avenue, Brockton, Mass., seeking relief from Article 3, Section 27.9 for a variance to construct a new deck and staircase in an R1C zone located at 28 Roberta Avenue.
What's the name? I'll go down and see if there's nothing down there. Oh, there he is.
Right here. Please identify yourself.
Yeah, good evening, members of the board. My name is Andreas Caroliolius, and I live on 28 Roberta Ave. I cannot go any further with construction of my deck and stairs, and I'm seeking a variance. My hardship is the lot is angled, and the land is what the land is, and the house cannot be moved. So originally, there was a leak in the foundation, and it's been repaired. And I plan on building a waterproof deck underneath that, so to keep it dry in the future. The original plan was to bring the stairs down on the opposite side of my deck, but could not be achieved because of the close proximity of my underground propane tank. As you can see, all my direct abutters are all in favor for this project, and I'm hoping I can convince all you as well.
All right. So the relief that you're asking for is, get me over the head. I keep forgetting. The relief that you're asking for is relief from side yard setback.
Yes, correct.
And you're explaining to the board that your hardship is the shape of the lot and the location of the deck. Correct. Is there any other location on this property where this deck can go, or it needs to go right where it is?
Well, I kind of did some work, and I got the post for the deck, and I just don't want to get any water in there in the future. So now my stairs are coming out a little bit further than my original deck, because if you look at my original plot plan, I had a little land in there, but the stairs went the opposite direction. So I just want to loop around and come back down the opposite side, away from my side setback, which I believe it's 10 feet, plus or minus.
Yeah, it's 30 feet in the back, but...
Well, it's the side, and 30. It's like 20...
15 on the side.
15 on the side and
It's
23
minimal.
in the back with the stairs.
Board members, any questions? Taking into consideration the new regulations on stairways, this deck stairway does not fall under that regulation. So he doesn't need a special permit for the stairs.
How far into the project are you now?
Well, I can't go any further until I get the actual building permit, but I built a masonry wall, put pavers, and I put the, sonotubes for the posts.
Yep.
Okay. And I just wasn't aware, I really wasn't aware, and I apologize of
That's
how
understandable.
far I can go.
No, that's good, thank you.
Board members all set on questions? We're good? All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'll now open it up for discussion among the public. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? I have several communications that have come in from neighbors and abutters of this location at 28 Roberta Avenue. They write, "We have been longtime neighbors with this family since 1986. We have no problem with the construction of a new deck and staircase," and that is from 36 Roberta Avenue. 26 Roberta Avenue, unable to attend the meeting tonight. Please accept this letter as our approval for the new deck and staircase. As an abutter, we have no objections to the planned work. This is from 20 Roberta Avenue. And in this case, regarding 28 Roberta Avenue, we would like to be recorded as in favor of the petition of the petitioner, and that is from Todd Petty, next door abutter. So there's several neighbors that are supporting your expansion of the deck. All right. Anyone else here that want to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. I will now close the public discussion and open it up for board deliberation. Board members.
I think it's a reasonable request. I don't think it's egregious upon his neighbors, and I think it's a reasonable improvement to his property.
I would agree. It's going to add value, and the unfortunate part is that's the way the lot is shaped, and there's nothing he can do about that because he has those abutters as well. So it seems like the neighbors are not opposed to it. So.
Yeah, all the neighbors that are directly affected by it are in favor of the project. So, I don't see any issues with this.
Motion to grant.
Just on the motion, I just want to mention that it appears as though the relief that they're asking for is pretty de minimis. It isn't like it's a building, it's very small. All right, so since Sweeney jumped in already, we have a motion to grant, and it has been seconded. I will now ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Landis.
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Chief Galligan. Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted. Good luck. Letters of support, why don't you give me those? Or do you need to keep them for your file?
We do need them for our file.
Okay, you'll keep them. All right, the next petition is 2441, the petition of Robert L. Pellegrini, Jr., Esquire, 63 Main Street, number 1, Bridgewater, Mass. For a variance seeking relief from Section 2725 to create a drive-through that extends from a commercial lot onto a residential lot, which is 0 Electric Avenue, and that is located in R1C and a C2 zone located at 635 Crescent Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Robert Pellegrini here on behalf of the owner, Cadet Realty Donut, Inc.
Could you just identify yourself again? I couldn't hear it.
Sure, Robert Pellegrini, attorney for the owner, address of 63 Main Street, Bridgewater. So I'll give a brief introduction, and then I'll let the engineer show you everything, and then I'll try to wrap up explaining what the hardship is. Once again, this is right at 635 Crescent. This property was purchased in August of '94, and as you can imagine, the way that Dunkin' operates has changed a little bit since '94. I mean, even their name has changed. So they're in need of a better way to move customers through the process. And their way of doing that here is to install a little bit more space, and I think it's important to note that is all on the commercial property. The only request here is because the drive-through lane is extending partially onto the residential lot and back, which, by the way, is currently used for retail parking for the property next door. So it's really changing, or the proposal is to change from retail parking that's not needed on the property next door to really a drive-through lane and retail parking for this property. You're going to ask yourself, how is it used for retail parking next door? There was a ZBA permit approved several years ago when parking was viewed as more parking is better by municipalities, obviously, since that time. everyone's caught on to the fact that we had too much parking. So as this is rather complicated, the orientation here, or the process that we would go through, is obviously to begin with the hardest permit, which is with you. And then from this point, we would have to go amend the special permit that the ZBA approved way back when. And then if that gets granted, then we would make this lot a nice rectangular shape, whereas currently this rear lot is used, and again, as part of the adjacent lot, which I think when you granted it was a Taco Bell, or maybe it was Taco Bell Enterprises and it was Long John Silver.
Question, when was building next door?
Yes. Correct. Yeah, so it's currently like an L-shaped lot. Okay, so with that, I think it's best, probably, please stop me if you don't agree, to have the engineer go through his plan, and then I'll wrap up with exactly what we need legally, or what we're requesting at least legally. Thank you.
Good evening, board members. Chris Anderson with Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors. I think I can pull this one out here. So I'll start off with our existing conditions survey plan, just to kind of give you guys an idea of what the lot currently looks like today. All right, so the subject lot that currently contains the Dunkin' store and another convenience store attached to it, located at 635 Crescent, at the corner of Crescent Street up to the north and Electric Avenue to the west. There's two entrance and exit drives currently to access this site, here and here. And then the drive-through sneaks around the back of the building, hugs very tight, and goes around to the drive-through window here. So there's currently a little median strip of curbing that separates the 635 lot with the Zero Electric Ave parking lot we mentioned. This lot is accessed over here on Electric Ave and bypasses through to the abutting use, which is now Yaz Chicken, formerly Long John Silver's. And as you can see here, there's a couple of parking spaces, I believe used for employee parking, that are, stacked right up in here. So as you can see, there's currently no real maneuverability. If you're in this short queued drive-through lane, if there's a car parked here, and a car parked here, you're kind of stuck in that location. No real way to bypass or get out of this area here. So I'll move on to what is being proposed. So as Robert mentioned, we are looking to add an addition to the existing Dunkin' building that would expand the kitchen and rearrange the drive-through, based upon that new footprint. So that new footprint is fully within the existing lot on 635 Crescent. So we are proposing to now extend that drive-through over to this portion that was previously parking. That will still allow for a 24-foot wide drive aisle and the existing parking on the other side to remain. We're also incorporating a bypass lane, which is a nice feature just for circulation of the lot in general. That's a 12-foot wide one-way lane that will contain, do not enter signage, and, allow anybody, if the queuing of the drive-through is stacked up, somebody can bypass and exit accordingly. So, overall, we think it's just a much more functional traffic circulation design. We're actually reducing the impervious area on the site pretty significantly. All this grass and landscape area shown here was previously just all pavement. We incorporated a parking calculation for both the uses associated here as well as the neighboring use. Still have plenty of parking. I think the remaining spaces in the rear really lend themselves to employee parking, while the front will remain, patron parking for the building. So I think that pretty much covers it. Rob, if you have anything else to add, if not, happy to answer any questions on the site plan.
So the question to the right, you guys own that parking too?
Yes, yep, these are, they're different entities, but all the same owner, all three.
Shared parking?
Yes.
Okay.
To anticipate some of your questions, I'll just tell you what some of mine were. One of the things that I know this board in particular is always concerned about is circulation for emergency vehicles. This area is just striped, so whereas currently there's I think it's a chain link fence in this area that sort of blocks your access to the rear of the building. That's no longer going to be there. I think that's an improvement. And there's not going to be any combustible materials along the building. It's all going to be grass and non-combustible materials. That was, I think, probably the only thing that I wanted to touch upon. I can jump into now the hardship, which is always something I know you look for as well. The building, as I had mentioned, was there in 1994 when they purchased it, so they're not creating this hardship. Since then, it's been quite a few years. The way business is run obviously has changed a lot. It's been a long time. There would be a hardship. I mean, there's 73-foot setback from Crescent of the existing building, and I know the structure is part of what you consider, which I think is a good thing. Failing that, I think to do this and to get better at doing their job, they would have to relocate this building. Once again, it's not something they created. They'd probably have to move it up to avoid this. So that's primarily what I would say, and there's some benefits to this as well. We'd be, as I mentioned, further down the road, we would be getting rid of the L on the L-shaped lot next door, and once again, that's not parking that's ever get used. I'm sure you've all visited the site and driven by it, and maybe even visited it as a customer, and I'm sure you've always seen that back parking lot is just empty. So we're taking the L off of one lot. We're making this a more typical rectangular lot as well. So once again, I believe those are our best arguments.
Board members, any questions?
I just have a couple. So all those lots that you'll now be engrossing into are owned by the same property owner that owns the Duncans?
Right. They're different legal entities, but the same exact owner. Yes.
Second of all, is this, I know, franchises do this. They put pressure on the franchisees to change. And we can see Dunkin's has done that all over the place. They have a different look. They have a different thing. Is the franchise Dunkin' Donuts placing this onto the owner to change the look of this store, which is making this expansion happen? Or is this just something they want to do on their own?
We appreciate that question, actually. I'll let the owner's rep touch upon that.
Sure. Hi, Eric Escander. It's just a matter of convenient timing, really. This project...
You need the mic.
Oh, I thought he had it.
This project will coincide with the remodel that we have planned anyway. So it was just convenient timing.
Okay. But it is part of the whole remodel process.
Yeah, we'll be going. I assume at the time that we go for the permit on the addition, we'll be going. It'll include the rest of the image upgrade.
Okay. All right. And that back parking lot, will people still be able to enter off of Electric Avenue, or is that being closed off? Or?
Yes.
That will entrance and exit
open.
off of that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
That lot in question on Electric Avenue used to belong to the property next door, correct?
That's correct.
And the owner of this particular location purchased that lot to be used with the donut shop. That's where we're at.
We purchased the property next door as an investment, added benefit that it came with the lot right behind us. To be honest with you, didn't even really realize it when we purchased the 645 Crescent Street. We didn't know that that lot came along with it. We didn't pay any attention
All right,
to
so
it.
where I'm going with this question, is that lot in back on Electric Avenue now merged with the lot that the donut shop is on?
That's what yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, so, this variance is obviously the biggest hurdle for them. So we had to start here, but it will end with an A&R, with a new lot line, and yes, that lot will merge at that point. There'll
So
be
I
a
think
new lot line.
that solidifies the need for the variance, and that's why you're here tonight. Okay, so I got that part done, and I understand your hardship. I would think also that with the layout of the current building, there isn't too many options of where you can put a drive-through through this building. So,
So the reason for the addition on the Duncan,
just come up.
the reason for the addition on the Duncan is to create efficiency, operational efficiencies. The inside layout right now is just out of date, and we're really not able to accommodate the guests properly. So that was the reason that we wanted to extend the building. When we extend the building, there was no way to have the drive-through the way it was.
Okay, do I understand that you purchased the building to the east of your property?
645 Crescent Street? Correct.
So you own both of those locations?
Correct.
And this lot is open to both locations?
Currently is, yeah. No, right now there's a chain link fence separating 635, the back of 635 Crescent Street and the lot on Electric Ave at 645 Crescent Street.
So let me rephrase my question. If this were to be granted,
yes,
would that access way remain open or would it close?
We're open to your feedback. I think it creates a nice continuous flow through both lots. I feel like it's safer. I feel like it's, it's easier to access for guests, in and out, employee parking, all of that. We would like to propose leaving it open. But if you say, no, we need to close it, then we'll close it.
Well, the only reason I ask that question is obviously this lot sits on a residential area, and that's why you're here tonight, actually. Since this has been granted, personally, I don't know of any problems that we have had over there. That restaurant next to you has not been occupied all the time, so I don't think there was an awful lot of traffic that went through this lot that's in question. So that remains to be seen.
Yep.
When you come in from Crescent Street, you're going to have two options. One is to go through the drive-through, or one to bypass the drive-through, go out to this parking lot and exit out to Electric Avenue if you wanted to do that, which right now you can't do that.
Correct.
You're adding an extra lane that will get you out onto the parking lot, out to Electric Avenue. Yeah, that's what I said. Okay. Now, immediately adjacent to your lot, there is a house on Electric Avenue. Have you given any thought on the relocation of that dumpster? Moving it from where it currently is, you've moved it to the back side of the so-called new lot. It appears to me that would be very close to the house that is on Electric Avenue. Would you consider relocating that dumpster to the other side, to the right of that lot?
Yeah.
Is that
Just
something?
for clarity, you're saying move it here.
That's what I'm thinking. So it won't be so obnoxious to those people that live in the residential house next door?
We'd be happy to do that, yeah.
And there is a stockade fence along the entire flooding line, just as additional buffer. Oh, sorry. Yeah, a stockade fence currently exists along that whole side property line. But we're talking about moving it over to the other side.
It's open for discussion. I'm only bringing it out. I'm sure the board members will have something to say about it. But I think if you move that to that location, you're going to be right up against that house that's on Electric Avenue. If I lived there, I wouldn't want it next to my house.
I understand, yep. Yeah, the placement here, the way that Chris drew it up was for, obviously for efficiencies when the loader comes in. I have no problem moving it down here. We're not going to lose any parking or change the flow of the parking lot for doing that. By doing that, we'll just have to work closely with the vendor and when they come
I think
to
you'll
pick
be
it
a
up.
better neighbor.
I agree with you.
What about lighting for this lot? Is there any lighting now? What is your...
And sound. What about the sound of having the intercom is that being pushed out closer to that residential house?
So the existing intercom was right here. It's only moving, maybe 10 feet. The whole drive-through essentially was just right here. It's just sliding down.
But you had a fencing, you had buffer zones there a little bit. Now all of that's going to be gone. And so that sound for that house is like right there on the fence line. I'm just wondering what that's going to be like for those residents living right there. Maybe have the speakers go towards the building instead of coming towards the residents.
Fence here, and I believe it was just a chain link fence here. Right.
But you had two fences before you even reached that home, and now it's just going to be one, and it was closer to the building. Could you switch the intercom to face sound towards the building instead of facing out towards the house?
We would not be able to do
No?
that,
Okay.
no. But I would be willing to, and I don't know, Chris, if it fits or not, to consider some sort of vegetation buffer along the fence.
I think that's a great idea. I was going to suggest that, because then it'll
Would it fit without
dampen this
taking away
up.
the parking?
Yeah, I think we're restriping this. We're restriping this anyways, so we can, essentially scoot that parking slightly over and give, 3 feet of space to potentially do some arborvitaes that, go up
Sure,
over
I
the
think-
stockade fence and just that sound buffer as well. That'll help tremendously.
What are your hours of operation, just out of curiosity?
I believe this location is 5 a.m. to 7 p.m., if I'm not mistaken, and we don't want to change that.
Yeah,
ever.
no.
We don't ever want to go back to, I believe it is, though.
I understand.
Well, I have a couple in Brockton that are open later than 7, but I don't think this is one of them.
So part of the regulations, when you have commercial up against residential, you need to put some kind of a buffer between the two. So I think if you put some vegetation in there, they're talking 6 feet high as a minimum, that would go a long way to addressing some of those issues. Now, let's get back to my question. What are you going to do for lighting over here?
So I believe there'll be some wall pack mounted lighting just for the drive-through. I don't believe we'll be doing lighting in the back parking lot if it doesn't currently exist. I think the intent of that is just for employee parking, which...
Well, let me just make a statement then that if any exterior lighting is on the back side of this place, where you're up against a residential neighborhood, don't put any rental lights up on Edison poles, light packs on the wall that throw light against all the houses next door. I mean, again, you have to be a good neighbor because you got commercial up against residential, but they certainly make lighting that goes straight down. I would just caution you that if you're going to do any lighting, that would be my
I believe
request.
the architect that'll be developing the plans, it'll all be down mount facing, dark sky compliant.
There you go.
So that'll all be considered, I think, as part of the franchise.
Yeah. All of our building lights are the sconce lights facing down. But I don't know why I don't remember if there's any parking lot lights back there now, but.
I think to the point of it, like the chairman was saying, if there is, there isn't. That's one thing that was already there. I think the point is, if you are going to put anything in, make sure being good neighbors.
We are not proposing to add anything. Nope.
All right, before I end the questioning of our board members, I just want to kind of regurgitate what we've talked about here. You've shown a hardship. We talked about downward lighting. We talked about vegetation along the south line. And you're talking about most likely moving the dumpster to the other end of the lot so that it's not up against the house. We're talking of keeping both parking lots accessible. Just on that, was there a sign on Electric Avenue that you can't go in from Electric Avenue? Did I see that? Maybe I'm thinking of something
We're showing signage here. Sorry. Just do not enter signage with the one-way bypass lane. I don't believe there is anything here currently, no.
So would it be your thought that if somebody came in there to go through the drive-through, they're probably going to exit back out on Crescent Street?
A drive-through customer, 100%, they wouldn't have a choice.
That helps a lot.
Yeah, full circulation around the building and out.
there's an elevation change from here to here. We have no intention on changing. We have no intention on changing that, so once they're in the drive-through and make the turn, they would be exiting out.
They could circle the building if they wanted to, but most likely they are not
Right.
going to.
Yep.
All right, so the variance that we are looking at here is a use variance to use this residential location for a commercial purpose. And if this is granted, it will be specifically for the use that you're talking about, not to put any buildings on this property.
Understood.
Okay. Board members, any other questions? Everybody's good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I'll now open it up to deliberation among the board members. Board members.
I think, obviously they want to be good neighbors. They, obviously, again, I asked the question about, they have to change these buildings with the times because of the franchise. And I think it's important to, you want to keep them as a tax base in the city of Brockton too. So I think, they've been open to everything we've talked about. So I think this is a good project moving forward. I think the upgrades, it'll be a nice building. It's going to be on that property.
Yeah, I think it's an upgrade to the queue line. It makes it a little deeper. It makes it more efficient. It's better than what's there now. So, motion to grant.
All right, just for, on that, we are not really discussing tonight the hours of operation of any of this. We're only discussing the use of that piece of property out back. I think the question on the hours was a courtesy question rather than something that would be mandatory. We all agree on that?
Yeah.
All right. So we have several stipulations that I have enumerated. Everybody good on the stipulations? All right. If we're good, I would ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus.
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry.
Yes.
Chief Nardelli.
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The petition is granted. Good luck.
Hey, Robert. Did you say you have to come back for a special permit for something?
Do we have to provide approval for the for that?
So the Long John Silver's had originally had in there as the parking as a requirement?
Yeah, there was like 53 spaces on that site. So there was a plan for it.
Okay, but my understanding was, I don't think they need to come back.
No, think of this now. If they sold the lot, then shame on them because now they don't have as much seating as they could have had.
Right.
Because the size of the lot determines the seating. So
Now it's all owned by all one way.
I will.
Don't worry about
So
it.
we're just going to go A.
Yeah.
The size of the lot will be determined by the number of seats.
Sorry, I just gave you a little blouse, but.
I don't need it, please.
All right, the next petition is 24. I gotta read this. Next petition is 2442, the petition of Cruise Property LLC, 120 Torrey Street, Brockton, Mass., seeking relief from Section 27-9, lot area, lot frontage, and lot width for a variance to construct a single-family dwelling in an R1B zone located at Plot 16 Windsor Avenue that would be to the right of 58 Windsor Avenue.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Matthew Costa. I'm an attorney for the applicant, and my address is 73 Washington Street in Taunton. I represent the petitioner Patricia Cruz. David Cruz is present. He would be the developer of this lot if the board were to grant the requested variances. And also present is Mr. Bill Self, who's the surveyor who drafted these plans that you have before you. As indicated in the petition is seeking variances from Section 27-9 of the ordinance for lot width, lot area, and lot frontage. And as you can see from the plan, basically the lot, it's almost rectangular. It has 60 feet of frontage. It is about 200 feet deep, and it has a small carve-out on one side that cuts into the lot about 4 feet by 30 feet, where the abutting garage is closely situated to that carve-out. The parcel has a unique history. It has a history with this board. At one time, this was a pre-existing non-conforming parcel. In 1974, there was a plan recorded which adjusted the boundary and created that 4 foot by 30 foot jog in the boundary line. And in 1992, the lot came before the board, and at the time there was a question about whether or not the adjustment in the boundary line had negatively impacted the parcel's pre-existing non-conforming status. So in case number 92-56, in September of 1992, the board continued the case that was presented at that time to get a legal opinion about whether or not this was still a pre-existing non-conforming lot. And in that process, that continuance, I think it was tabled, and that ended up being deemed a denial. There was litigation that ensued, but in the 35 plus years, the records from that case are lost. What we know is that the case came back before the board. And so the case was remanded to the board, petition number 92-88 in December of 1992. So at that time, the board granted the variance. And I believe that we provided a copy of the variance that had decision that had granted the variance in 1992. And basically at that time, the board made a finding that small change in the boundary line had a minimal impact on the parcel, and that failure to grant relief would result in the deprivation of all beneficial use of the property. And the board recognized that under the belief the lot was buildable, the owner at the time had extended sewer to the lot, and it had been taxed as a separate buildable lot. So the variance was granted in 1992, but then it wasn't exercised for reasons we're not aware of, and it lapsed. And so at this time, essentially what we're requesting is that the board reinstate the variance that was granted in 1992 to render this parcel a buildable lot for a single-family home. It's in a neighborhood where it's surrounded by single-family homes, and although it doesn't meet the current lot area requirements, this parcel is 11,000 plus square feet of land. It's in the R1B district, and it has 60 feet of frontage. The way it's situated, a single-family home could be built on this parcel in compliance with all the setback requirements from the abutting parcels. In terms of the unique situation with soil conditions, shape, or topography and hardship, we respectfully submit that there are unique circumstances here that are related to shape, that basically this very small adjustment in the boundary line, this like 4 foot jog, has rendered this entire parcel non-buildable. And so it is a unique situation. That small issue with the shape really is the thing that made it so that this is not a buildable lot. And there is a hardship because without relief, there's really no use that could be made of this parcel. The present owner purchased this in the year 2000, so they've owned it for 24 years. In terms of the plans for the dwelling, the plans that you have show a parcel with a footprint that's 26 feet by 36 feet, a 4-bedroom, single-family home. So the overall square footage of this 2-story house, it's a colonial-type house, would be about 1,872 square feet. In terms of, it is a narrow lot, which is acknowledged. The plans show that there'll be dry wells connecting the drainage off the roof into the ground. So that would prevent impacts in terms of stormwater and ensure that the water is all managed on site. The topography is shown on the plan, and based on the existing topography, there's no expectation that there would be any kind of impact in terms of stormwater. And so I would welcome any questions that the board members would have about the petition.
Board members, questions? So the understanding that I have on my investigation is that this is an old lot, and for some reason, somebody put that garage on the property line, so they cut into this lot to give that space to the garage. And there has been a determination that based upon that small cut that they made for the garage, it caused this piece of property to lose its so-called grandfathering non-conforming use. So now it requires a variance if you want to use the lot. And
That's correct.
It all started when they made the cutout for that garage.
That's correct. And that plan to do that was recorded in 1974.
So do I understand that the plans that you're proposing tonight meets all the setbacks, front, rear, side? So the biggest issue to us is then whether or not this lot is going to be buildable?
That's it.
Okay. Board members, any questions?
If I understand correctly, the hardship is due to basically the shape of the lot with the adjustment of the boundary line. Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Because that's, so your hardship is basically the taking away of the non-conforming because.
That's really the issue that creates the hardship. So yes.
Is it true that years ago, when the city put sewerage on the street, that they brought a chimney in on that lot in anticipation of, I think I read that somewhere, where money was put forth to extend that lot, storage into that lot?
Bill Self, Curly and Hanson. What actually happened was 91, 92, when the lot was purchased by the former owner, not Dave Cruz, that I was told that they actually helped and bring the sewer down. They were going through the variance. They had gone, I believe, the first variance. They went in, and then it was remanded back in 92, and I think that's when they put the sewer line in. So there is sewer water now available on the site. On the original plan that was submitted to the variance to the board, it actually showed a proposed sewer coming up, and that would have been in 91, I think, the date of the plan.
So I think one of the questions we had earlier was the lack of drainage on the street. Can you tell the board how you're going to handle drainage on your lot?
Okay. Yeah, I think the board recently has had a lot across the street. I know, I had watched on your video, and in different circumstances, this lot is fairly flat from the street. In this area here, the drainage does go to the end of the street. It's a dead-end street. Here's Route 24 coming down through here. There's just vegetation before you get up onto the highway. But all this drainage from here goes this way in the street. Our lot is I believe it was 277 here, and it's a fairly flat lot, but all of the flow goes to the rear of the lot. So it's 200 feet that we have to, allow that to continue going down. The only real water coming from our house, all of your roof runoff will be put into these recharge units to the rear of the property, and they're going to go directly into the water table as your storm water for the recharge, deemed clean water. So the only minimal area of drainage will really be just the front yard that may or may not even get to the street. To elevation 278 around the house, elevation I think is 277 in the street out here, so it's a very flat surface that will be around the house as well.
So all the water from the house stays on the lot?
Yeah, basically, yeah, the same pattern, the same flow pattern it would be there. Right now, this is fairly wooded up to the back of the house. It's wooded along this side and wooded the front. There's an open area really where the house is going to go. So I'm not imagining anything changing pretty much back here for backyard. So 200 feet deep, I think a lot of vegetation will be left there, which helps with your off-site flow as well.
So the petitioner has no plans to maintain vegetation in the back?
I'm not really sure, Dave, if you have any comment. Most of the time, you know, this is a small A-frame colonial. It fits the same style here. This whole house basically here is the same as well as across the street. So it'll fit the neighborhood. But I think normally a backyard, they're going to have 70, 80 feet of, I don't think you're going to clear any more of that. If the new owners depend, you know, they want to clear it, I'm sure that they'll.
The reason I bring that up just for discussion is we have found in the past that even though we talk about preserving all that vegetation, when you sell it and the new owner comes in, if they want to clear it, they have the right to do that, I guess. So.
Yeah, and again, during the construction, I'm sure that, you know, there is light trees in front, right, but they'll be removed for sight appearance and distance, if nothing else. But, you know, once you get by the back of the garage here, it's already fairly, you know, it's very light. It's not a heavily wooded area. Back and through here, there's larger brush, larger trees, but I don't imagine, you know, 60, 70 feet for backyard.
The one question, the one thing that Bill will explain better than I did, at the end of Windsor, we found existed drainage that had been blocked through the years without maintenance, which you can explain that.
Yeah, let me take over here. It really has, watching your video of the last, I know it's a different case, but years ago, there's a drain before the highway was there that comes from your next street up here. I know, listen to a lot of the drainage was coming across this lot up top, but there's actually a manhole that was in the area right along the highway here. It's a city-owned easement. They had it, and it drained all the way across here, all the way down to a pond, Nickerson Pond or something
Leonard's
like
Pond.
that. Leonard's Pond. Yeah. There's actually a plan on record, and it crosses back over onto this property. I think if you remember that plan, they had an easement coming across where the wetlands were, but there's physically a manhole, you know, that was on the highway property that's shown on the highway plans, and then it went under. There was a drain under Windsor, and then open ditch here, which drained it down to the pond. But it's on record. You know, the engineering department has copies up in the engineering. I'm bringing up more. It might help you resolve the issues you had on the other side up there.
We're sticking to tonight.
I'm sorry?
We're staying with tonight.
I know.
I'm sorry.
But that drained all of that.
Yep.
But that was the purpose of the drain. It was back in the 30s. I think. It was pretty old drain.
Very good. Board members, any other questions? Or are you done? You done on your presentation?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Board members, any questions? Everybody's good? I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Yes, please come up and give your name to the clerk.
Hi there, my name is Bill Dunphy. I'm a butter directly across the street at 57 Windsor Ave. And I can shed some light on the sewer issue. When the previous owner, before Irene bought the property at 57, he separated the two lots because that's the way he bought them, and to allow this lot here to be a buildable lot, it needed to have septic because we didn't have any septic coming up any sewer lines coming up our street. We all had septic tanks, and his septic tank was too close to the property. So he actually paid the city to run the septic line up to the house, and at that time, they approached all of us to see if we wanted to have sewer hooked up to the lines, which would be 390 Pearl, myself, 396 Pearl, and 406 Pearl, which is 396A. We all are hooked up to sewer along with Irene. Just a side note for you. And also, the case that came up before where the lot was a grandfathered lot, I was very involved with that particular case too, where the previous owner, before he sold it to Irene, before he sold it to Hogan, actually back in '92, I think it was, actually earlier than that even, around '92, he realized that it was not before '92, previous owner. He realized that the garage was built on the other property. So he came down to City Hall and had to move the lot line, which effectively, because that was 1974, made the lot a non-conforming lot and therefore not buildable. And so this current one that's coming before the board right now, I feel like this is such a small lot. It doesn't conform to the square footage, the frontage, the sides, nothing. And it's a very tiny lot. I'm not sure how many of you happen to drive up the street and looked at it. Irene has been mowing the lawn over there at this property since she's lived there. And I just feel like we should hold the zoning regulations as they stand right now. The second problem is what you addressed, Chairman, was the water runoff, which we've had issue with the property across the street, and the water table in that area is very high. We have sump pumps in our cellar. We don't get any water in from the outside. What happens is when it rains heavy, we can look down on our sump pump wells and we can see the water table rising. And by building more in the area here with the new house, it's obviously going to just increase the water table in the area. And we're afraid that it's going to impact our property in this, similar to what's happened already with the new house that's been built just away from us. That's caused that issue. So with those issues there, would be opposed to granting the variance.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition?
Good evening. Hi, Irene O'Hare Marsh, 58 Windsor Ave.
58?
58 Windsor Ave. Just visually, just wondering, like, it does look like a very small lot, just as far as, like, walking out my driveway and stepping into, like, the next door neighbor's living room or something. It just kind of feels very, very tight. And don't really know much else. My husband just recently passed away, so I don't really know much about zoning and things like that. My neighbors dumpies and stuff like that, but don't really know, just here because it's my address.
Does the petition have a picture of the house that you're proposing to build, or just the plan?
I included with the filing, the set of house plans.
Yeah, you got it right there?
Just here, just a
All
4-bedroom.
right, you keep those, I don't want to mess them up.
They may have been on 11 like that.
Well, I wanted to show her what the house was going to look like.
I can show these plans.
Well, here it is here. Narrow with a porch across the front.
Like my driveway, and then where's the house going to be, like, when I...
Board members, I'm going to allow a little leeway so that he can show her what this looks like. Yeah, go right ahead.
This is plan that the driveway, her driveway is on the westerly side of her house. We'll have our driveway on the same side, 5 or 6 feet off, and the house will be 17 feet off the property line on both sides. It's really centered in the lot, which we feel gives plenty of room.
That answer your questions?
As much as I understand, yes, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official who wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That concludes the public discussion. I will now open it up for deliberation among the board members. Board members.
This house here does seem to fit the neighborhood. And it wasn't...
Steve, I can't hear you down this end.
Oh, sorry.
Speak up a little.
No, I said it seems to fit the neighborhood, the house in there. And it was a buildable lot up until that garage went over a few feet into the property line, so I don't see an issue with it.
I think a lot of my concerns goes back to what we've had with issues in that whole sector in the past. Although this is away from there, it's still concerning of the water table issues that we've discussed in the past. I understand, the hardship with the size and the shape and the depth, and it still has it is very large. I just obviously just still have some concerns about things we've discussed in the past with this. I think I did see a picture in the paperwork of the house. It's a nice looking house. I think it will blend into, like Mr. Lana says, I think it will blend into the neighborhood well.
On this one, I do like the water system that's laid out in there that does put it back, what would be shed from the roof back into the water table, so.
It would appear that if somebody hadn't put that garage where they put it, and that lot line stayed the way it was, probably you wouldn't even have to be here tonight. It's because of what they did with that garage. I do have a letter that I just want to read in here. It says, I'm in a butter at 416 Pearl Street. I am not in favor of a variance for plot 16 Windsor Avenue. It goes on to say this property is too small for a single-family dwelling. There isn't enough frontage and would change drastically the neighboring yards. Please abide by 27-9 with frontage width fails in all three sections. Thank you, E.J. McDonald. So that was a letter that came in opposition.
Motion to grant.
Second.
All right, there's a motion been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lannis?
Yes.
Mrs. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
The vote is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you. What are the applicants?
Is that yard work and baseball games? I wish I could say I was like in the islands or something. Yeah, I did. See?
A lot of weeds to pull. Yeah. This one here seems like it's a lot of stuff to be. What is that? Concerns and questions that they have. I wish I could.
All right, the next petition. Next petition is 2443, the petition of Patrick Hendreden, care of John McCluskey, 1325 Belmont Street, Brockton, Mass., seeking relief from Article 3, Section 2729, and Article 3, Section 2713A for a variance to create 3 lots to construct 2 single-family homes in an R1C zone located at 94 Woodard Avenue.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, members of the board. Chris Vale on behalf of petitioner Patrick Heffernan. Along with me is Scott Faria from J.K. Holmgren Engineering. As you heard, this is a petition to the Zoning Board of Appeals seeking a variance to divide the existing Plot 13 into 3 lots in order to build 2 new residential homes on the 2 newly created lots, while the existing residential home remaining on the last. In order to do so, Mr. Heffernan is seeking a variance, looking for relief under the sections 2729 and 2713A. Some facts particular about this project is Plot 13 is located at 94 Woodard Avenue here in the city, in which that lot is located in an R1C zone. This plot does have 41,790 square feet of an area which currently has 1 residential home on the front of the lot facing Woodard Avenue. The rear of this plot is currently overgrown with trees where Mr. Heffernan wants to divide in order to construct 2 new residential homes in the back, which would then face Wyoming Avenue in the rear. As shown on the plan, Lot A would consist of 23,270 square feet of lot area, would meet the frontage requirement by having 177 feet, would have 29.9 feet of a front setback, which currently exists, and would meet both the side and rear setback requirements by having 45.7 feet of siding and 56 feet of a rear setback. This lot would have the already pre-existing residential home on it. Lots B and C would have the same dimensions of having 9,260 square feet of area, 90 feet of frontage, and meet the front, side, and rear setback requirements of having 32 feet of a front setback, 15.8 feet of siding, and 41 feet of a rear setback. Lots B and C would each have 1 newly constructed 4-bedroom residential home that would then face Wyoming Avenue with ample driveway space for parking. Lot B and C sizes would still be larger than most lots that are already pre-existing on Wyoming Avenue. In regards to the hardship, Plot 13 does have a very unique size, shape, and location. The lot is a lot larger than all other lots in the area. In addition, it sits on both Wyoming and Woodard Avenues. In addition, it has become overgrown to the rear, hard to keep clean, and a dumping site for debris and yard clippings. Mr. Heffernan has continuously every season cleaned up trash, debris, and clippings from the property. I do know that I believe back in May, Scott Ferrier did bring this to planning board, in which it did get approved for a definitive subdivision. But we do believe that this is a good project. It will bring 2 new lots to the city with 2 new homes, and they're very good sized lots. So we are asking you to allow us the variance in order to build.
You should also be looking for 2714, which is the section that deals with through lots from one street to the next street.
Yes. I believe so. It's currently one lot. And the existing house is on the Woodard, but our proposal is to have the 2 new houses on Wyoming.
So originally, this is one lot that goes from street to street.
Correct.
Now you want to divide it so that the original house stays on the opposite street, on its own lot, and the lot that's on the back street is going to be divided into 2.
Correct.
Have you got deeds for those properties?
From my understanding, we did not need deeds because we did get definitive subdivision approval.
Well,
and they would have their own separate deeds.
They may give you approval for a subdivision, but we as a board cannot split up these lots. We've been down this road before.
If I may, Mr. Chair, Scott Farrier, Holmgren Engineering. The way we've done it for the last year, I'll say, since this has all come up, is as long as we have definitive approval from the planning board, that creates the lots. So the lots are technically created. So the question Mr. Lanus had was, you know, is it one lot? It was one lot 3 months ago, but now it's been divided by the planning board. It's been approved by the planning board through the definitive subdivision process. So it is now 3 brand-new lots. The lots aren't necessarily buildable because they don't meet, you know, certain zoning requirements, which we need the relief from you folks for. But they are existing lots, and that's the way we have been doing it. We've been going to the planning board first for definitives, and then come to you folks for the relief needed.
And the problem would be if we did create 3 lots and registered them, they're not buildable. So we'd just be creating 2 non-buildable lots without variance approval.
That's correct. So you would be creating the lots, and the lots would not be buildable without a variance.
Correct.
That's correct?
Yes.
Right. So if these lots are split up the way they are right now, how do you sell Lot B and C? Somewhere there's got to be a deed created for these lots.
Oh, exactly. But I think to Attorney Vale's point, it doesn't make sense for us to create the deeds yet and record the deeds. If you folks deny the variance, then the lots won't go into existence and we won't sell the lots off. So we don't want to record the deeds and have 3 deeds out there, 2 of which are for lots that are not buildable, because not all attorneys are as sharp as the ones in the room currently. So I wanted to include him.
Felt bad.
Yeah, exactly. He's over there in the corner by himself. So, but that is, Chief, that's the way we've been doing it, you know, lately. So again, as when we go to sell it, Lot B is sold. The subdivision plans that were approved do have a note that, you know, the lots created do not meet zoning and need further approval from the ZBA. So there are notes on the plans that the planning board endorses that do state that point back to your board.
Yeah, I believe we just did one last month, didn't we?
Yeah.
They created a deed for that lot. It's a separate deed for the lot, and then they came for us to allow them to build a house on that lot. They created the lot by deed.
All right, but I created the lot by plan. By the planning board signing by the planning board endorsing the definitive subdivision plan. So instead of creating it by deed, I created it by the plan.
On the notes here, it states 94 Wooded Ave, a definitive subdivision was approved by the planning board in April of 2024, and it needs to go before us.
All right.
But I think, to the chairman's point, I think the chicken before the egg thing, or which one comes first or doesn't, I think is me trying to recollect how it was.
We've done, I've done, I think every meeting that we've had in the last year in front of you folks, I've had one where we've had a definitive subdivision that the planning board, you know, has already granted.
Without the deed.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yep. Like I said, if we go back to your agenda, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but if we go back to your agenda, I'm sure just about every meeting I've had one like this situation. Usually they're side-by-side lots, but still that have gone to the planning board.
I do know before we even filed this, we did reach out to the building department saying, and we were told that this was allowed by going to the planning board.
It has to be that one.
Yeah. You got to use the handheld one.
Like I said, we did, before I even filed this, we did check in to make sure that this would be sufficient enough by going through planning board, getting the definitive subdivision approval that we were allowed to go. Because I do know this plan and this project has been in the works for at least over 6 months now, which we withdrew based on that rationale. So I did do my due diligence in making sure that this would be allowed and be able to be voted on tonight.
Okay. So the hardship that you have described here is the shape?
The shape, as well as the fact that it has become overgrown and has been a burden with clippings, debris that Mr. Heffernan has had to clean up.
All right, board members, any other questions? Everybody's good?
Actually, I have one question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do these houses have garages? No garage?
No.
It says existing garage right here.
That's already pre-existing, that's going to be removed.
Okay.
I didn't hear the question.
It says,
Garage.
shows on the map that there's an existing garage
Right.
there. Okay.
Okay, that was the question. All right, board all set? All right, we're going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close the portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Do I have something here?
Yes. It's quite a lot.
All right. We have a letter from the owner of parcel 722955 Wyoming Avenue, which would be to the left of the proposed Lot C. Oh, you folded it up? So the concerns that this person has to the left side relative to creating the two lots is on the left side. If approved, with regard to the construction of single-family dwelling on Lot C to the right side of our home at 55 Wyoming Avenue. There you go. Is there a possibility that the location of the proposed doghouse on Lot C to be relocated due to its close proximity to our master bedroom? I don't see that.
The existing garage, I think the existing garage is in that footprint.
I'll take this.
You're talking about would be the one Karen Moody residence?
Yeah.
They said Lot C, right?
They're saying Lot C.
Right of Lot C. That's the.
It almost sounds like they have the lots confused. Sorry. It sounds like the lots might be confused in the email only because if you're looking to the left, would you
Yeah.
agree?
Yes, yeah, exactly. That, the deck, she referred to it as a doghouse. It's a deck in the back of the house. I'm assuming that's, and it was 75 Wyoming Ave, I believe, so that's this person right here. So I believe they're looking for the deck to be slid further away. I'm sure we can do that.
If they're saying the doghouse, because there is a doghouse on the back to go to the basement, the doghouse is on the opposite side. Am I right, Scott?
Yeah, but I don't show a doghouse.
No,
Chief.
I know. You see it on the back of the.
On the floor plans, you're correct. It is on the house plans.
So the doghouse, she is correct. If it
It's
is
on
that
the
lot
opposite
C.
side, yeah. Yeah, we can certainly slide it down the house. I mean, we can't put it all the way over because then it'd be under the deck and that would be a problem, but we can certainly slide it more towards the middle of the house.
I really am struggling to follow this at
So
number
it sounds like it's.
55. The doghouse isn't even close to their house. Yeah.
But that's not the doghouse that Scott's. What Scott's pointing to, that outcropping, is actually a deck,
That's a
correct?
deck, but
It's
somewhere-
not showing the doghouse on there,
Exactly.
correct, Scott?
Yep, that's correct. Yep. So the doghouse is more towards the middle of the house. We can, I mean, it's not right on the garage. It's 20 feet down the house, so.
Basement, so it's like instead of a bulkhead.
The way into instead of a bulkhead, it's
Yeah,
just
it's a walkout.
more of a door instead of a bulkhead. Yeah, yeah.
All right, so let me proceed. Would Mr. Heffernan be willing to fully repair the fence located at 55 Wyoming Avenue that is next to proposed Lot C that was broken in 2021 by his tree from the overgrown, unkept dumping site for debris side of his existing property? So this would be between Lot C and 55?
He will fix it, he said.
Side 50, we continue to deal with constant barrage of wild animals digging their way from his property onto our property at 55 Wyoming Avenue. I was advised the construction will have an impact at 55 Wyoming Avenue property due to the overgrown, unkept property, which can include an influx of rodents. What precautions will be put in place to ensure to prevent rodents and an influx of wild animals invading 55 Wyoming property?
I think by building 2 new houses will prevent rodents from living in the back there. If
Is that
that's the
something
question.
the health department takes care of?
Not typically. On demolition, we require baiting, but not
Right.
on new construction.
I've read this on when we demolish buildings, that they have to bring a exterminator in to do. I've never really got involved with this, so I'm just reading it so you're aware of it. Will there be communication from either the owners and/or contractors with respect to the construction building timeline or time frame for the purpose with respect to working from home schedule and the noise levels? I guess the question is, you're not going to be working after hours, so as to speak? Is
No.
that?
I don't think by ordinance they're allowed to.
Yes, I don't see that being an issue. And also, Mr. Heffernan's planning on living still where he always has lived.
So Mr. Heffernan lives in the existing house that's there now? Okay, all right. So just to reiterate this, it's your understanding that the construction, if this is allowed, would be during regular business hours?
Absolutely.
Probably not on a Sunday or a holiday?
That's fine.
Okay, I think we've addressed that. All right, is there anyone else who wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official who wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Before I close that out and open it up for discussion among the board members, going through the plans for the house are different than what's drawn on the site plans for the location on the property. Are you aware of that?
I was not fully aware. I believe that, what is it, the house plans? House plans don't have the garage.
The plans that were submitted are 36 by 30 house. What we see on here is 58 feet by 30. These plans show 30 by 36. This shows 30 by 58.
If I may, Chief, the house itself is 30 by 36, and then there's a 22-foot garage to get to the 28, the 58, I'm sorry.
So whoever submitted these plans, why didn't they put the garage on it? I'm just a little frustrated that we're looking at this house and I'm saying, well, that looks like it'll fit on the lot, and then all of a sudden you look at the plans and it's a different building.
There's a garage.
I'm just disappointed in that. All right, so we are at the point where there is anybody with any questions relative to the testimony. I'm going to close that. That will complete the public discussion. I'll now open it up to board members. Board members.
Well, on the planning board, we approved it for a preliminary subdivision. We saw that it cleaned up the lot a bit in that area and solved a few issues while doing it. So the plans, I don't see a garage on there, but I would imagine you have to stay within that footprint, whether it was a garage or if it was a master bedroom, or would be nice to see what is going there. I don't know. Does anyone else have anything?
You know, with a 90-foot lot, and I'm just going to pontificate a little bit here. We've done many of these, and the board seems to really favor a narrower building on a lot of 90 feet. These buildings that we're looking at here kind of beg for a larger frontage lot than what we're seeing here. Anyway, just as a thought, as I said, when I looked at the house and I saw the size of the house and the size of the lot, it looked like it was going to be a pretty good deal. And then when I saw the size of the actual finished building, now I understand why we got so many requests for variances. So, anyway, just a thought. What did I have? Only that one?
Just that one vehicle.
Okay.
Motion to grant?
Motion has been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus.
Yes.
Ms. Greenberry.
Yes.
Chief Nadelli.
No.
Mr. Sweeney.
Yes.
Chair Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative.
Vote is 3-2, 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. The petition as presented is denied.
Thank you.
Only 2 more.
We're getting there. Air conditioning feels good.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, the next petition is 2444, the petition of Calm Brockton LLC, 48 North Pearl Street, Brockton, Mass., seeking relief from Section 2732, subsection 3, for a special permit to construct and operate a hotel.
Want to start over?
Next petition is 2444, the petition of Calm Brockton LLC, 48 North Pearl Street, Brockton, Mass., seeking relief from Section 2732, subsection 3, for a special permit to construct and operate a hotel in a C5 zone located at 55 Christie Drive.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. With the board's permission, my name is Attorney Jim Burke. I'm an attorney at law with office at 48 North Pearl Street in Brockton, Massachusetts. And I have the pleasure of representing the developer, Calm Brockton LLC, which is in fact a Delaware corporation that will be authorized to do business here in the Commonwealth if we're granted relief by this zoning board. The developer is someone that the board knows well because it granted permission for him to be allowed to construct a hotel next to the Shields MR facility by D.W. Fields Park. That facility is now under construction, and they're looking forward to an opening the first of the year. He also has under construction a hotel facility in Connecticut, and his family investment group has been involved in the ownership of commercial and retail structures for a number of years. What he seeks before you today is relief by way of special permit to be allowed to construct a hotel in a C5 zone. It is in fact an allowed use in a C5 zone by special permit. The area, as you know, is kind of unique. It's right next to the access road to 24, has superb access for a hotel. In fact, I had the pleasure of permitting the hotel across the street. Very nice gentleman by the name of Mr. Patel. And the need for the facility, I think, can't be expressed any more than the fact that Mr. Patel himself is looking to expand his facility to add on. This particular facility would be an extended care facility. It would be looking towards a specific group of individuals, traveling nurses, work-related for short-term assignments, construction trades. They do very well throughout the country. Again, I had the pleasure of permitting the facility on Liberty Street, which is an extended care facility that has been a great addition to the community. This will be a brand-new hotel, and I think it's one that will be well received. If you look at the area, one of the issues on a special permit is obviously whether or not the structure and the use will in fact be in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood. Christie Drive has numerous facilities. They have, in the area, they have a nursing home, they have another medical facility for dementia-related patients. They have certainly the Social Security, they have medical facilities, and they had the Shields structure, which in fact is going to stay. This property is roughly 3 acres. I think it's 2.93. It's roughly 3 acres, and there is sufficient area now to maintain the existing facility as an office building and still retain the required parking that's needed under our ordinance. The hotel will be constructed as you've seen on the plans to the left, and it will have sufficient parking for each one of the 100 units? 120 units, and there'll be 120 spaces for the facility. The operations will have a checkout time at 11 a.m., 4 to 7. You basically will have a lot of your work in off hours. So we had a traffic analysis done for the board. Even though I think that it's pretty clear that the existing use would not have a significant impact on the surrounding neighborhood, but that traffic study does confirm that they think it will have a minimal impact in the surrounding neighborhood. People that are leaving the facility are just not going to take a left-hand turn to the Pleasant Street area, which in fact would be the only area that could be connected. Because of the unique layout of this facility, the sort of people will be entertained, will be seeking residence there, will be on their way to some other place in the morning. The net result is they'll be leaving Christie Drive onto the access way, onto 24, and to whatever venue they're looking to go. This is going to be a substantial benefit to the community. It's going to be roughly, I think, a $12 million facility, and in fact, it will provide additional revenue and the reutilization of a piece of property that has done well and is going to do better. And part of what you seek to do when you have a special permit is not only is it in harmony with the surrounding neighborhood, but whether or not it provides a benefit to the community. This will. So Scott's here, and I'm going to let Scott Farrier to go ahead and identify the uniqueness of the site plan. I will add, because I think the question will probably come up, there is no intention of dividing the parcel, so there really is no need for cross easements for the property right now. If in fact there was ever an attempt to separate the properties, then we'd need to create access easements if they were required. But as of now, it's going to be under single ownership. Scott?
Thank you. Just kind of turn it so that maybe they can see it on TV. No, this way. So we can get it on the camera. Just let slow. All right, so you can see it on the camera? Okay, good.
He owes me one.
Yes.
Is that good? Okay, thank you. Thank you. As Attorney Burke said, the biggest part of this construction project is fitting the new hotel, the 120-room hotel, around the existing facility. So we have the existing office building. Currently, there are 2 entrances off of Christie's Drive. One entrance right here that I have highlighted. A second entrance just off to the side. We would be eliminating that second entrance, turning it into a large landscaped area, and having our second entrance now further down on Christie's, essentially having a separate entrance for the hotel and a separate entrance for the office. There's plenty of circulation around the building. Right now, about half of the site is paved. As part of our project going through site plan approval, we'll have new drainage systems proposed that'll handle all of the runoff from the existing site and the proposed construction. So that'll be part of our site plan package. Everything else we're anticipating will meet all of the site plan requirements as far as lighting and signage go. Landscaping, as I've shown, kind of highlighted in green, there's an abundance of landscaping, a lot more than we have in a lot of sites. So we have a good buffer on both sides, and a little bit in the back, and some landscaped islands in the middle of the parking area. All other utilities are available on Christie's Drive: water, sewer, gas, electric. So we don't really foresee any other issues.
Can you describe how you are going to buffer your property from the R1C on Pleasant Street? The backside, right there where your pen is.
Yeah, we do have a fence shown across the back of the property, so we would have a stockade fence in the back, again, as part of the site plan package. We would have that fencing and some screening shown as well.
It would be good if there was some kind of green space there also.
Yep, it's that, oh boy. Excuse me. That's my tooth. Yeah, my tooth just fell out. So
It really knocked you around tonight, didn't it? I look like a pro.
I think it came from you. Yeah, I'm gonna play hurt. I'm good. So.
Wow. I'll tell you, this is a tough board.
Wow. My dentist tells me I shouldn't chew gum, so there you
Do I
go.
drink the water or anything? Or?
No, I'm good. I'm good. If I start drooling blood, just let me know. Jesus.
What's how?
So that back line, it is the existing line of pavement, so we're kind of holding that so we can get the, the required parking spaces that we need, and also the required travel ways. So we will have, again, it's not as much as perhaps you'd like, but we will have the fencing and the evergreen screen as well. So
On that area right there, you're kind of backing up to commercial, which is on Pleasant Street, but over in the corner, you can see you're up against residential.
Yep, there definitely are.
Yeah,
It's kind of a mix on Pleasant Street there.
Do something good over there.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, if I could, what name brand is this being built to? There's certain stipulations with different brands, but what brand are you building it to?
So we explored multiple options.
So we reached out to Marriott, Hilton. They're both interested in the property. Choice Hotels, they're all interested. But for this, because this will be a project for probably 12 or 16 months out, because we want to ramp up the other property before we break ground on this property. We reached out to, so as proposed right now is a Studio Res by Marriott. It's a Marriott product. But we're looking into Live Smart by Hilton as well, and Town Place Suites. It's going to be an extended stay product.
Okay. So we did put stipulations on the previous hotel. Would you be willing to abide by those same stipulations?
Yeah, I guess one of the issues was we're willing, and I think we put it in my brief, that they would not, we would agree that this would not become a permanent extended residence for over 90 days, I believe it is, which was exactly the stipulation that you had in the prior zoning ordinance, and we're fine with that.
Okay, and couldn't hold an address? Okay. Okay. We understand, like, traveling nurses and all that, they may need to stay there for...
They can't use that as a permanent.
But they're not getting mail there, they're not... Okay.
So sometimes if they are traveling nurses, they might get packages. If they're construction workers, they might get packages, stuff like that.
Thank you.
So you just stated now you plan on working on the other property first. Is that correct?
I was referring to the Westgate Mall Hotel.
All right. You're going to own this other office building that's currently there, correct?
Correct.
It's a dump. What is your plan to do something with that? And I just want to be candid. I mean, I drove by there today. It's dilapidated and a mess. Is there a plan to do something with that?
Well, there was a lot of illegal dumping that happened over the weekend. In fact, today it was all cleaned up as this morning.
No, the building itself looks like horrendous. Is there a plan to do something with that building? I guess my point is this. You're going to put this beautiful hotel. You want someone to come in here and put their name on it, and they're going to be looking out at that thing.
Yeah, we could definitely refresh the building as well if it comes to cosmetics and stuff like that. That's no problem. I know Shields in 2018 did a gut renovation to that whole building as well. They put close to $1.3 million into that building.
Went away real quick. Sorry. Well, I guess my point with that is, are you going to be operating? Is there something going to be operating because you're going to own it? Something's going to be operating out of
Correct. So we are still trying to look for tenants for that building. It is vacant right now.
Well, I wouldn't move into it either, the way it looks. And I want to be perfectly clear about that. When I first came, we have a paper issue, so we don't have the plans with us when we go out. So I look at them, I go out, I look at it again, and then I was concerned about the fact that that building, I thought maybe you were raising that building to put this there, because I couldn't see anyone would want, unless you're going to put work into that building. It's just kind of, here you are, I see a nice looking, hotel you're going to put here. and then I see what they're gonna be looking across the parking lot. I don't know, if I'm working on a construction job, I don't wanna be looking at that every day. So I just think that's some stuff that's important to, you know, if we're gonna spruce up the area, let's spruce up the area.
No, we could definitely look into that. We have
Awesome.
no issues with that.
All right.
So this does fall back under planning purview. So Chief makes a very great point. That would be something that I know I certainly would want to see some changes on. So if this passes along the way, I just would like some proper planning into that. So so it behooves you and the community.
Nope, I totally agree.
Okay.
So that building will probably be used commercially for offices or whatever, won't be part of the hotel?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, are all the rooms with kitchenettes?
Yes.
Just as a point of information, particularly to the attorney, is that if you delay working on this, just realize if this is granted, you got 1 year, then you got to come back for an extension. Yeah, so just kind of keep that in mind.
We were going to talk about that.
All right, I just thought I'd bring it up.
I heard that.
Yeah, it appears as though this is going to be a good use for this property. Any other questions from the board members? Everybody's good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official here that wants to be heard on the issue? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that has a question relative to the testimony that has been given tonight? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. That completes the public discussion. I will now open it up for deliberations among the board members. Board members. This is a special permit. This is not a variance. It is an allowed use by right with special permit from this board.
I think it serves a good legitimate purpose. I think it cleans up, it does, it cleans up that corner a bit, and the opportunity to clean that building up also on planning too goes a long way, so I do like the project.
I would agree. I think, you know, there's a lot of work going on there. I think you just need, you know, let's not put, you know, lipstick on a pig, as Sarah Palin would say. You know, I mean, seriously. I mean, but seriously, you think about it, you're going to put a beautiful building there. Let's make it look presentable in the area. Yeah. Yeah. All right.
So what?
No, I agree also. I just think it's important that we put in a stipulation for the 90 days, you know, so nobody's living there.
We want to make an identical stipulation that we have. Was there something that there was a little kickback on, if I can address Attorney Burke? Was there something that was on the stipulations that there was any issue with on the previous hotel?
I'm trying to recall, and I apologize.
No, that's all right.
Except for what was a clear intent that we know have transients living there. That was a stipulation that jumped out at me, and we talked about it. It was easily agreed to.
Okay.
So I'm not sure there was anything else in the stipulation.
Okay. So we could match those same steps.
Yeah, I'll research that, and I think one of the things was you couldn't create an address there.
Okay, but-
You could not create an address there.
Yes,
Yeah,
right.
that was one of them, yeah.
Right. But he does have a point, because traveling nurses are good 6 months on a location, and they won't vote there, but they certainly will receive mail and addresses from me.
All right, one, yeah, go ahead.
I believe for the other hotel was 28 days.
This is the board deliberation, but I'll allow you to speak.
Sorry. I believe the stipulation for the previous hotel was 28 days, but for an extended stay hotel, we request it's up to 90 days.
Just as a side note, one of the concerns I had when I was looking the plans over is the water main that is going to feed this whole complex comes in Christie Drive from Pleasant Street. And this single water main feeds not only all the office buildings coming in, but this proposed hotel and the 2 nursing homes up on Christie Place. I went to the water department to see if in fact we had a looped water main up there. And there was some discussion, and your plans indicated that the water main ended. And we did some research and found out that the water main does go back out to Pleasant Street. So, for the board's edification, that whole complex up there is a loop water main, which I think is critical for all the people that are going to be living up there. Just a side note. Yep. All right.
Motion to approve.
Approve with the stipulations that we're talking about.
Motion to approve with said stipulations.
We just lost our audience.
Oh, my goodness.
All right, did somebody second that?
I did.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to grant with the stipulations as discussed. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus? Yes. Ms. Greenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nadelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
And Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
The vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. It is granted. Good luck. I don't believe we've ever had a petition to split out a tree. All right, so it looks like Jim's up again. The next petition, 2445, the petition of Absolute Builders LLC, 932 Bedford Street, Abington, Mass., seeking relief from Section 2736, subsection 6, for a special permit to construct residential structures on Lot A and Lot B in an R2 zone located at 150 East Ashland Street.
Excuse me. Yes, if I may, Attorney Jim Burke, and I have the pleasure of representing Absolute Builders, Inc., and Mr. DeGisberg, who is here. This is a piece of property that the board has seen numerous times because we've had a number of appearances for commercial and other related structures. It's an interesting confluence of property. You have an I-1 zone, I-2 zone, a C2 zone, and an R2 zone roughly right next to each other. It's formally, and one of the defining impacts of that neighborhood is the Trout Brook property, which runs adjacent to our particular facility, which leads to the issue of flooding that has brought us here. It's also somewhat unique in that the founding fathers of Brockton thought fit to make the Zoning Board of Appeals a determination of floodplain issues, which generally might be more comfortable in the Conservation Commission realm. But here, it's unique because of this property, and it's been broken up by Scott so that you have roughly 2 buildable acres, Lot A, Lot B, and they are going to house a duplex, 2 houses on each property. And if you look at the line, they are placed without need for additional relief under the R2 zone for dimensional variances. They fit, but they fit in an area that, because of the elevation, creates an impact relating to floodplain uses. So, in order for this board and my client to be able to build the structures that are as-of-right structures under the zoning, he needs relief, and what we're going to do as part of mitigation to grant the relief, and Scott will get in greater detail, is you're going to create floodgates on the garage areas so that in the unusual event that you have a 100-year event and that there is flooding. What would take is that through design of Scott, the water flow would be channeled so that it would take a natural course and have the same impacts it would have in a normal 100-year event. So the work that's being done, the driveways, the asphalt, are all outside of the floodplain zone. The only impact that we're going to make to the floodplain at all is that we need to do some temporary filling of roughly 3,500 square feet. That is only temporary. When it's brought back, it will not impact the hydrology or the topography in any substantial way in relation to the floodplain area. So it's really a unique piece of property. There is massive wetland surrounding it. You have the trout brook. You have the confluence of the various uses. And you have basically the isolated area, which is the only way this property can be used for any value. And as a special permit, I think that having brand new residential structures in that area will provide a substantial benefit to the surrounding area. It will improve the values of the property and will certainly be more appealing cosmetically. So I'm going to let Scott go ahead and identify, if he could, how he is going to beat the water.
Sure. Thank you, Attorney Burke. As Attorney Burke said, we deal with the floodplain issues a lot more now than we ever have. There's a real lot of regulations that go along through the building department and through the building code to allow the construction of homes in the flood zone. So the building code has a whole list of requirements, and the federal government, FEMA, has a whole list of requirements as well. And the easiest way to look at it, on coastal properties, you see a lot of the houses that are built up on stilts, so the water can just free flow underneath the structure. That really obviously wouldn't work here in Brockton. So as Attorney Burke said, what we end up having are flood openings in the garage, basically in the back of the garage to the front of the garage, that under the pressure of water, they open up and allow the water to free flow through the garage and continue on its normal course. The issue that we always have with flood work is if we didn't have those flood openings, by putting the structure on the property, it would displace that water and push it in other directions, impacting the neighbors. So FEMA years ago came up with these flood openings, and it allows the water to come in and out. It's garage only. There is no basement. The actual living space is a few feet above the 100-year flood elevation. So the first floor is up here. It's the garage that is at ground level where the water would be coming in and out under that heavy storm event. So there is no danger to the inhabitants of the home under that 100-year storm event. They're well above the water flow. So as Attorney Burke said, we have a filing before the Conservation Commission for the work, but at some point it was going out for review, and we figured before we get too deep into it, we should come before you folks and get your blessing on the special permit, and then we'll go back before the Conservation Commission. So ultimately, DEP has to approve it by an issuance of a file number, and Conservation has to approve and issue an order of conditions. And down the road, the former owners will still need flood insurance. They're still in the floodplain, even though we're up above it, so they'll still be required to have flood insurance as well.
This is a normal occurrence to put this floodgating in on a house.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, Scott, when I saw it, I was like,
yeah,
that's.
I would say probably not in Brockton.
Yeah.
But in more coastal communities.
Seaside communities.
Yeah. Now that I've said it honestly, if you pay attention on the garage doors, you can see a cutout that matches the door, but it's almost like a dog door, and the force of the water forces it out, and then it closes. So now that we've said it, you'll notice it in coastal communities.
So I guess my concern is this: someone buys this house, 20 years down the road, people forget what those doors are there because we never had the 100-year storm.
Yep.
Person that buys the house now says, "What are these stupid things? I'm getting rid of these." And now we have a problem that we didn't, the solution to our problem is now gone, unfortunately. And I guess that's my concern about the long-term use of this house.
It would be no different than if you had floodplain or wetlands behind your property and you filled it in. It's the same thing. It's essentially no different than putting an addition on a house. It's up to the building department to catch that violation. If that flood opening is closed, you'd have a problem with your homeowner's insurance at some point if they came out. But realistically, it's a conservation enforcement issue. So the Conservation Commission has to go out and
I
enforce
think
it.
it's just like one of those things where, you go down to Marshall, you go to Duxbury Beach, you go to these places, you see houses on stilts, because the overflow of the ocean. That's very clear.
Yep.
But in a dry, this is a very wet area. I mean, Tuca's playground is underwater 75% of the year out in the outfield. I guess my concern is when it is dry, right? And this all has to go before conservation. I understand that. So I don't want to talk about their stuff. I'm just trying to rationalize in my own head. When in the dry times, these folks might not see it. People sell the house, they don't even know what it's for.
Understood.
If it doesn't get passed on to them. And next thing you know, what the heck? I don't have a dog, I don't need this thing or whatever, because that's what they're going to think it is.
Yep.
So, all right.
As a thought, as part of the Conservation Commission.
Sorry.
Thank you. As part of the Conservation Commission issues, they're going to issue an order of conditions. They're going to require as a stipulation in the order of conditions that in fact the gates be maintained. And I can see where you're going. That order of conditions needs to be recorded at the Registry of Deeds and references the deed parcel so that the owner is made aware of the obligations under the order of conditions. So I don't think you'll run into a situation that somebody will be coming in 10 years from now unaware and not understand they have to maintain the structure.
Mr. Chair, if I may. So is the business condo, I know this doesn't pertain to your parcel, but is the business condo, I believe there was a proposal for that back lot. Is that still something that's of your...
The other side of the road.
Oh, that's the other side?
It's on, it's on this side.
Okay, all right. I just didn't want to see how that came into play.
The brook pretty much separates
Okay,
these
so that's
two
the other
houses.
side.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
When I went up there and walked this property in the woods, I was amazed at how quickly this dropped off in the back. What kind of a yard would these houses end up with?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, they end up with, it does slope off, but, I mean, area-wise, they end up with a bigger backyard than most folks. I mean, this unit here, this line here is the limit of work that the Conservation Commission would agree. So they've got about an 80-foot backyard, and this house here has more of about a 40-foot backyard. So they still have a bigger yard area than most lots do, that are put at 30 or 35 feet.
I just want to make the observation that I observed it. When I walked in off the sidewalk of East Ashland Street, it dropped. And then when you go towards the left, it drops off really drastically.
Yeah, it definitely does.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, as the chief mentioned, personally, I have seen this whole area up here underwater, and it may be somewhat of the bridge at East Ashland Street that almost creates kind of
a restriction.
Yep. But that area does flood up there. It really does flood. And when we get a heavy storm of 4 or 5 inches, the Tuca's playground, the back end of that's underwater. I've seen the water almost up to East Ashland Street. So the area that you're looking at to put these houses in certainly is an extremely small, if you want to call it high and dry area. But at some point down the road, in my opinion, there's no question we're going to see water in there. But anyway, I just want to make my observation on that. Also, under the new regulations that the council passed not too long ago, you need a special permit for exterior stairways that go from the second floor, floor 2 down to the ground. So you should be asking for a special permit also for the exterior stairway. You do not need a special permit for a stairway that comes off of a deck, but an exterior stairway that comes down on the outside of the house from floor 2 now requires a special permit. So,
You could get that relief, that.
I know it's new, but just be aware of it. All right, board members, any other questions? Everybody's good? Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. I'll now open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? Please give your name to the clerk.
Tommy Williams, 80 Melrose Ave. I am the owner of the 1925 farmhouse that was part of that property. I am in full favor of this happening here, as the rest of that piece of property is supposed to be turned back over to the city to keep that part of the park, to connect the Puffer Park through the freight yards over to Salisbury and Snow Park over there. And the buildings that they're going to build, the taxes will pay for the rest of that 11 acres that'll be left over. So we won't lose any of the tax base on that end. The developer built 3 houses on my street. The other developer built 4. Together, they put a sewer line in for the whole property of the city, from Melrose Ave out to East Ashland Street at no cost to the taxpayers and no cost to the city of Brockton. So they've been a great developing team, and I hope they get this through.
Okay, I have a question for you. In the dissertation here, it says the property consisted of a 2-family home. Where was the 2-family home on this property?
I own it. Melrose Ave.
Okay.
I own the farmhouse. That East Ashland Street is the very end of my backyard.
Is that still there, or is it gone?
The 2-family?
Yeah.
I live in the 2-family. I'm on the total other end of that. That's where the farmhouse was. The backyard, the very backyard of the 7 properties was on East Ashland Street, along the store and along the original Trout Brook.
Okay. All right, very good. I didn't know that. Thank you.
All right.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak in favor? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there any elected official that has any questions relative to the issue at hand? Seeing none, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that has any questions relative to the testimony that's been given? All right, I have a letter that has come in, I think that falls in this category. It's from 150 East Ashland Street, trustees of LRW Realty Trust. We received a letter from your board regarding petition of Absolute Builders. We would like to voice our concerns regarding this proposed development. This lot contains wetlands. If disturbed, can affect our property. Please also find the attached copy of the FEMA map illustrating the flood zones. Due to the displacement of water, this project can result in flooding and other damage to our property. We would like these concerns addressed at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting on August 13th. Please advise if you need any additional information. Trustee of LRW Realty Trust. And they submitted a picture of the site. All right, is there anyone else that has any questions relative to the testimony? Seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. That finishes the public discussion. I will now open up for discussion among board members.
Well, it is unique. I think the description and the explanation as far as water going through the garage piece is probably new to all of us. However, it does make sense on when they do experience high volume of water, there is a flow. I would be in favor.
Mr. Chair, could I ask them another question? I know we're discussing, but I just had a quick question.
Go ahead.
You okay with that? So where are we with conservation and the aspect of that? I think, I just look at we're kind of putting the cart before the horse if conservation is going to have a huge issue with this.
It's always a problem we have with everybody, who goes first. And we filed with conservation. Frankly, in this case, figuring they were harder than you guys. Usually you guys are the toughest ones. But in this case, we figured that would be a big mountain to climb. They said they wanted to stop and get ZBA approval before they went any further with their review. So we filed everything, we've paid the filing fees on the 2 lots, we've submitted everything to the state. The Conservation Commission asked us to stop and come to you folks first. So, again, we get approval tonight, we'll go back to them. I believe we've been on the agenda every month, and we just keep continuing until we're before you guys. So we'll be back before them next Wednesday is the next meeting.
So they're a stop right now. They haven't even looked into it any further.
They've looked at it originally, and then they stopped and said, let's wait and see if the ZBA grants it.
And did they give you a reason why they wanted us to talk first?
No.
No?
Power play, maybe? I don't know.
Great.
I don't know.
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, I really don't have anything other than what you heard me ask about earlier. That's my concerns, but I don't know, it boggles my mind a little bit. I would rather have gotten some insight from the conservation before we're gonna make decisions. Well, yeah, I hate to say it, but like, this is not, again, like we even said, we're not used to understanding, this is not what we're used to dealing with. Again, I drive down to Duxbury Beach, I see houses on stilts, I know why they're on stilts, they're next to the ocean. This is an oddball for me personally.
I guess if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
A comfort level is.
Jim.
I guess, Chief, a comfort level is that even if you grant the permit, it's no guarantee that it's going to get built. They will have veto power as to whether or not it gets built if they have the other concerns. So,
Motion to grant?
Second. Who said that, Lanes? All right, the motion's been made and seconded to grant. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus?
Yes.
Ms. Screenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
No.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative.
The vote is 3 in the affirmative, 2 in the negative. It is denied.
Thank the board for the time.
Thank you.
Don't forget you have to elect.
All right, board members, before Sweeney decides we're going to go out the door here. We have our annual duty to elect a chair and vice chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I advised you last month that we would be voting tonight, so I hope that all of you are ready. So at this point, I will open up nominations from the board for any name that you may have for chair of the board for the next year.
Kenneth Galligan, I motion to close.
You can't do that.
I'll second.
So we have one nomination. Somebody want to close the nominations?
Motion to close nominations?
All right, nominations have been made and closed. All roll call vote for the aforementioned board member serving again as chairman. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus?
Yes.
Ms. Screenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
All right, now we will take a second vote for the vice chair of the board for the next year. So I will open nominations from the board members.
Chief Nardelli?
Second.
Motion to close nominations?
All right, we have a name. Fire Chief Nardelli is nominated to be vice chair. The nominations have been closed. I will now call the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Lanus?
Yes.
Ms. Screenberry?
Yes.
Chief Nardelli?
Yes.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes.
Chair Galligan?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
That's 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. So serving on the board for the next year will be Galligan as chair and Nardelli as vice chair. Having no further business to come before the board.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. We are adjourned.